In today's episode, I'm going to tell you two stories. The first story you're going to hear is about this village in Africa where people keep turning up dead and nobody knows why until they do a stakeout. And the second and final story you'll hear is about this remote island in the Arctic region of northern Canada where these indigenous hunters make a truly disturbing discovery. But before we get into today's stories, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, then you've come to the right place because that's all we do and we upload once a week. So if that's of interest to you, please offer to do the like button's grocery shopping, but don't tell them you've squirted an entire bottle of lime juice into their fresh milk. Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads. Okay, let's get into today's stories. In the middle of the night on March 7th, 2005, a 64-year-old man named John Mangine crouched in the bushes in his little village in Uganda. Several of John's friends and neighbors were also crouching in bushes nearby, and everyone was being totally silent, constantly scanning the area, looking for movement. But so far, nothing had happened, and everyone was totally exhausted and terrified. So John had been around for a long time. He had 9 kids, 31 grandkids, and he remembered a time that was not even that long ago when this village was a happy, bustling place where, families and kids could play in harmony and everyone felt safe. But that all changed 14 years earlier in 1991. Because starting in that year, people in this village started dying. Or more specifically, people in this village started getting killed by someone they didn't know. It was like randomly people would just go missing and then turn up horribly mutilated and deceased, or people just vanished and were never seen again. Over the course of these 14 years, 83 people from this village had been killed and nobody knew why. And 83 people, to put this in perspective, represented 10% of this entire village's population. This was so widespread that everybody in John's village personally knew someone who had been killed by whatever was plaguing this village. And at some point, the people in this village began to think that clearly a demon is responsible for this. I mean, this is so pervasive that this can't be an animal or a person. This is like, God's will or something, or this is, the devil's will. We don't know, but it's supernatural. Like, we can't control this. It just is a part of living here. And so literally this village, the people here, had just grown to accept that, yep, sometimes people just turn up mutilated and dead. There's nothing we can do about it. We just got to live with it. But John, he personally knew several people who had been killed, and he never took the stance of, well, it's supernatural and we can't do anything about it. John's like, no, we need to look into this. There's gotta be an actual explanation for what's happening here. And so finally, in 2005, the tipping point was a little boy went missing in the village one morning. And for John, he has all these grandkids, including a bunch of little boys, and he saw this little boy go missing and, he was never found again. And John's thinking, that's just like one of my grandkids. This has to stop. We gotta look now. We have to look into this now. And so John very forcefully rounded up some people in the village, his friends and neighbors and others, and he told them, tonight we are going to set up a stakeout and stay out all night if we have to, and wait for this demon, this creature, this person, whoever it is. We are gonna catch them in the act and put an end to this thing. And because John was so motivated, so enthusiastic, and so ready to sort of lead this thing, he really quickly turned the tide of people's opinions in this village. It's like they went from being, we can't do anything about it, to, you know what, yeah, let's put an end to this thing. And so sure enough, that night, John and all these people he had got together for this stakeout, they headed to this area in their village called the butchery. They had named it that because the majority of the 83 people who had been killed and mutilated and, turned up dead, they were either found roughly in that area, or that's where they were last seen before they vanished. And the butchery was actually basically right next to this lake, this placid lake that sort of sat right next to the village. So everybody's scared of this lake and this area, but tonight's the night. They're gonna figure out what's happening in this village. And so John and the other volunteers, they make their way over to the butchery, and they each climb into these tall bushes, these reeds that are right next to the lake, and they all crouch down, kind of keeping their eyes on the land, the butchery, and also the lake. And there they sat. All of them constantly looking at each other, maintaining eye contact, to stay safe. And they're looking at